welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza. This is another episode of Put It Together. Welcome to the show. It is Saturday, January 22nd. And I want to welcome everybody watching us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Do us a favor if you don't mind sharing this on your page so that your friends and family can watch the show along with you. If you're watching us on YouTube, do me another favor and scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That'll let you know every time there's a new show on our page. And remember, we have different shows throughout the week. We have Christian and Daniel show, the Car Devo, and Put It Together. If you're missing any of those, go back and watch them. Also, if you have not been following or watching my horoscope predictions for 2022, go check them out. They're right there in the YouTube page as soon as you go on. This week, I'm super excited because I have a couple of my favorite people. I've known them. Actually, I was thinking about that. I haven't known them for that long, but it just seems like I've known them for a long time. We've been able to both collaborate professionally and hung out personally. I know their family. My partner, Christian, and I have been over there for tacos, which is awesome. Always an awesome time. But before I bring them out, let me tell you a little bit about them. Juana Mata and Estela Mata are sisters and co-founders of Looms for Lupus. Looms for Lupus is a nonprofit organization that provides support for lupus survivors, their families, and caregivers. They facilitate bilingual and Spanish monthly support groups. Juana and Estela are dedicated to raising awareness at a local, state, and national level for lupus, fibromyalgia, and mental health from receiving proclamations from local cities and states of California. Juana and Estela are members of the Multicultural Task Force Patient Advisory Council and part of the 32nd District Mental Health Consortium, led by Congresswoman Grace Napolitano. They have received state and congressional recognitions individually and for their nonprofit, their work in the community. They both serve as virtual advisory teams for the NIH All of Us Research Program. Additionally, Juana serves as a national ambassador. Juana and Estela have been nominated for WeGo Health Awards and are patient rising delegates. In addition, Juana has served as a patient advisor for the world's largest personalized patient platform, served as scientific peer review panel directed by Medical Research Program of the Department of Defense, and as a consumer advocate and 2018 48th District Woman of the Year. Wow, it wasn't until I read their bio that I really learned so much about her, but let me go ahead and bring them on the show. Estela and Juana Mata. Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estamos?
Buenas tardes, Daniel. Gracias por invitarnos. Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juana Mata.
And I'm Estela Mata. And so we're so excited to be here with our friend Daniel. And yeah, we've known each other for about 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Yeah. We want to do a shout out. We actually met at the iPaint conference led by Ken and Barbie Engel out of Phoenix. I met them. We immediately connected. I don't know if it was like somos igual de raza todos, ¿sí? Because we're all taqueros and we love them.
Yes.
But we met at a conference and there was a unique connection. And over the years, we ended up, I've been on your show. We've collaborated on a couple of things. I did comedy at your conference last year. Was it last year?
Yes, last year.
And it seems so long ago. And then we were graciously, we were invited to your house to meet your family. And that was awesome. So a big hello to all the Matas. Thank you for welcoming us into your family. But it's a pleasure having you guys here. I did not know a lot of these things about what you have done and the awards, the recognitions. I'm proud because I know you, and then I'm equally proud as Latinos that, you know, we're doing the work. We're out there talking to the community. But before we get into all of those details, let's just give a little feedback on you. Who's the oldest? Who's the youngest? Who's the loudest? Who's the quietest?
Okay, well, we'll start. So I'm Estela Mata, and I'm actually I'm the middle child. So, you know, I'm the favorite. No, just kidding. I'm the loudest, and I'm the most talkative, and I'm probably the grouchiest and the biggest taquera, probably, as you can see from my chunkiness right now. But Juana is the oldest and the favorite.
Yes, I've always said it. You know, I'm my mom's favorite, and I was my dad's favorite. Though Estela always wants to fight with me because she thinks she was my dad's favorite, but I'll let her think that.
Yeah,
She
so but
wants to claim it. We'll let her believe that for a while.
yeah, I claim it. We actually are originally from Mexico, so we both were born in Mexico. We came over to the United States with my dad and my mom legally, and we were able to become naturalized citizens. So it's just been amazing to be able to give back to the community. One of the things that we learned from my dad, and I was his favorite, by the way. But one of the things that we learned from both my dad and my mom is to give back to the community and to help others when there's a need. And that's how we started with Looms for Lupus. Is my sister was diagnosed with lupus. We saw that there was a gap in awareness about the disease. And lupus is an autoimmune condition that can affect any part of your body. It's autoimmune. There's specifically no cure for it. There's only been a couple of treatments FDA approved, and it was a life-changing chronic condition that we all had to learn from. And it affects about approximately 1.5 million Americans, but primarily it also affects minority communities like us. And learning, we had to learn what lupus was. We had to educate my mom, hablar en español, comunicarnos con nuestra comunidad del habla hispana in Spanish and in English. So we started our support groups for family members, caregivers, loved ones of those living with lupus, fibromyalgia. Juana lives with fibromyalgia. I live with with lupus and fibromyalgia and other autoimmune, and I live with fibromyalgia and my daughter. So that's how we kind of meshed everything together. And as we all know, when you have a condition that's chronic, it's a chronic condition, and that you're going to have for the rest of your life, it affects you emotionally and your mental health. So we like to incorporate a lot of the mental health, different modalities such as art therapy, mindfulness, meditation into our support groups. And Looms for Lupus was really created because Juana started loom knitting. And so for those of you that don't know what loom knitting is, it's a type of looms, a knitting with a looming kit. But we incorporated everything else from painting, rock art, and and her children were young. My daughters were young in 2011, so they kind of grew up. So we needed to make sure that we made it fun for them as well. I know I said a lot, but I want you to get that. We're very family oriented. We like to give back. We like to support other people, and we like to help our community, especially our Hispanic Latino community that speak Spanish.
That's awesome.
And that's one of the reasons.
Go ahead. I was going to say, considering that this all started with your diagnosis, Juana, can you tell us how you put it together?
Right. So when I was diagnosed in 2009, like Estela said, there wasn't much information about what lupus was, and just learning together as a family, because we saw the need within our family to just talk about it, to learn about it. And so that's what we did. And in 2011, when we started our nonprofit, we felt that what we had learned, we could give out to or share with other families, other patients that were living with lupus, like I was. And back in 2009, there was very little information, and the little information that you found most of the time was scary. It was, there's no cure, you can die from it. So we saw the need to bring not only the awareness, but also bring information, resources to the Hispanic community. My mom needed the information in Spanish, so we knew that that other families that only spoke Spanish needed the information, because, as Estela said, lupus affects the Hispanic community the most.
Okay.
So we saw the need, and we wanted to make sure that we brought that into our Hispanic community.
There's one thing that you mentioned, and before we go back into like how you discovered what was going on, it's really interesting. And I say this to people when I talk about HIV and even cancer, that even in 2022, the information that is being given out on any kind of health issues in the United States, the English to Spanish ratio is so off. Like you can find all kinds of information in English, but in Spanish you have to really dig for it, and you have to dig for the proper information or the proper translations. I found that out about HIV in 2000, and still in 2022, sometimes it's hard to find anything online that's that's language adequate. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. Especially right now with COVID too. There's been so many misinformation. That's like the next pandemic, right? And one of the things that we do like to collaborate with so many other people like you and other organizations. And we actually knew that there was a need for specifically with COVID. And so we partnered or collaborated with California Chronic Care Coalition. And there is a website called yourvaccinationguide.org, and we translated everything in Spanish with all correct and accurate information and links to the CDC, all in Spanish. So it's so important for us to be able to provide to our community in the language that they understand. So I definitely agree with you.
So let's go back a little bit to 2009 and the diagnosis. Um, Before you knew the diagnosis, before you knew it was lupus, ¿qué sentías? What were you feeling? What were the symptoms? Like for somebody that's out there going, wait a minute. And by the way, we're not medical doctors, so please consult your doctor or your specialist. We're simply relating our personal stories. So please, if you have any medical questions, go to your doctor. But anything else, please feel free to ask us here.
Yes, what we do is we put it together. We put the information together and we bring it to you so we can all be able to share and learn and raise more awareness.
Definitely. So, Daniel, I want to say that my symptoms started really early in 2004. In 2004, I was diagnosed with hypothyroid. And I know that, I mean, it's an autoimmune condition, but back then I didn't know that it was an autoimmune. So from 2004 to 2009, I was going through many symptoms. One of the symptoms being headaches. But then hypothyroid, you get headaches, you get the fatigue, you gain weight, nails are brittle. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of symptoms with the hypothyroid. So I always thought that I had hypothyroid. Throughout the years, I was then going to the doctor thinking that I had carpal tunnel. I type a lot at work, so carpal tunnel. But I mean, it was just different symptoms. But in 2008, my symptoms were getting really bad to the point where it was hard to even brush my hair. I was losing my hair. The fatigue, the body aches were extreme. I was getting mouth sores. I was getting nose sores. And so I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in the beginning of 2009. A few months later, and within 4 months, my symptoms were getting like really bad to the point where, sleeping, walking, my hair, using my hands, brushing my hair, even brushing my teeth, it was painful. Breathing, but I got a butterfly rash. My hair was falling. I was forgetting a lot. The migraines, the headaches were intense to the point where no medication was helping me. So I was going to the doctor back and forth. Nothing was wrong with me, they said. Other than just having rheumatoid arthritis, hypothyroid, that was all I had. I had really bad rashes on my face, what is called the butterfly rash, that most lupus patients get. And it's a rash that is a form of a butterfly. It is painful. It burns. It is like something that I don't wish on anyone. I was getting that on my scalp too, on my hands, under my nails. I mean, you name it, I was just doing really bad. So I went back to the doctor. They gave me topicals. You're fine, go home. One day I said, you know what? There's something really wrong with me. The mouth sores were, Danielle, if you saw the mouth sores, you would think that I had like a tooth extracted on my gums because you could see like a hole. It was like so bad. So I go to the doctor, and one of the things that I said, you know what? I've seen and I know how cancer or
patients with leukemia
have. That's similar to what I had. So I go to the urgent care and I said, oh, I think I have leukemia. And the doctor's like, you look good. No, why would you think that? And I said, well, I don't know. Look at my mouth sores. So he looked and he's like, no, you're fine. I said, well, I want to make sure that I'm okay before I go home. Can you do lab work? Going back and forth, he said, no, you're fine. Go home. So I did get lab work. I was sent home. I refused. I knew something was wrong. And that's another thing that we always advocate for patients' rights, and for them to know the rights as a patient. And with me making sure that I knew what was wrong with me, I think I'm alive for that reason today. So after going twice to the lab and insisting and persisting, the doctor takes me into his office and he says, yes, something is wrong with you. And I said, well, what's wrong with me? He said, your platelets are low. I didn't know much about platelet count, but I knew 99 was low because I had once been told that my platelets were very low and they were 99. So I said, okay, well, how low are my platelets? When he said 6, the first thing that came to my mind, okay, that's it. Am I going to die? And he said, no, let me check with specialists. So back and forth, they admitted me to the ER. A few hours later, I was in contact with my sister, Estela. We're very close, Estela and I always have been very close since we were little. And she comes to the emergency room. She asked the doctor, does she have lupus? After getting more lab work, my platelets by then were at 2,000. Normal is 130,000. Are you a doctor? Why are you asking about lupus? And the doctor said, yes, she does have lupus. And of course, I couldn't get any transfusions. I couldn't get any blood transfusion, platelet transfusion. All I could get is you're being admitted because you have lupus. Your body's attacking itself. And no matter how many transfusions you get, everything's going to be for nothing because your body is attacking itself.
Yeah. So basically, what I did is I gathered all of her symptoms, which were the butterfly rash, the sores in the mouth and the nose, the fatigue, the hair loss, the decrease of weight, not being able to move her hands with her joint issues, all of those things. And that, you have to, there's like a certain criteria to get a diagnosis. There's no specific blood work that tells you you're positive or negative for lupus. So they have to put it all together. And that's how I feared that she had that because, again, it was a chronic condition that can cause your organs to fail, that you could die, and that there was no cure and there was no treatment specifically for lupus at that time. So it was pretty scary. But again, one of the things, she was in ICU for 7 days. She is alive today because of self-advocacy. And that's one of the things that we want to empower and encourage others is we illuminate, right? We illuminate, we empower, and we support and raise awareness. Because if she would have gone home that night, she would have died.
I'm so glad you said that because as we're talking here about being Latinos and the way we work, como Latinos, es cállate. Cállate y escucha. No preguntas. Don't ask questions. We're so accustomed, and I remember this from my mom, we're so conditioned to not question doctors, to not argue with them. What they say goes. And even though that pink pill is not helping in any way, tú tómatela hasta que se acaben. And keep taking it. And because I remember my mom having thyroid problems too, and they would just chuck it out to like, oh, you're getting older. It's just you're getting older. How much credit do you give to trusting your gut and your instincts? And not just you, but maybe your family too.
100% now. Ever since Juana, if she would have gone home that night, she would have died. Her platelets were at 2,000. She looked fine. She looked good. She actually looked just the way she looks right now that night in the ER. And I looked all like messed up. So I looked like I was a patient. And that's the one thing that we want to let people know is just like we should never let the way we look from the outside contribute or let people know, or what is it, don't judge a book by its cover ever. Because with lupus, it mimics other conditions and you could look well from the outside, but dying inside. You have to trust your gut. You know your body. She says it well. You are the CEO of your body. You know what you need, and you can hire and fire those that are going to help you. So if a doctor is not helping you, then you go and you look for someone else to help you. In her case, she had other specialists, a hematologist, and another provider that diagnosed her with lupus. Maybe the first one didn't know, they didn't believe her, but she insisted. So that's the one thing, you have to trust your gut. You have to believe that what you are feeling, don't let anybody gaslight you. Don't let anybody tell you what you are not feeling or what you are feeling. So you have to stand up for that. And you're right. We are so accustomed, because our culture, you see a doctor, you see a white coat, you're like, you have to believe what they say. And we respect doctors. I work with providers all the time. So we respect them. However, they don't all have the answers for you, and they may not be the right match for you. It's kind of like a relationship. You have to get along with your provider. And one thing that I always think of is you and your story about how you needed a doctor that would make you laugh, because you don't want to be all serious and getting your diagnosis or getting any of that. So you want to be able to feel comfortable, trust. I think trust is a big thing. You need to be able to trust the provider that they're going to believe you and help you.
Yeah. One of the things I tell people now is like, don't go to the doctor's office, and when they ask you, how's it going? And you're like, oh, I'm great, when you're not, because that sets the standard and the level. And luego después ya, when you're not feeling great, they kind of don't know where to go. It's like, well, how long has this been going on? We do have a question on the board for you guys. So, Estela, what is the caretaker experience like with the continuing and persistent disease? What wisdom could you share with other lupus caretakers?
The first thing that I've learned is I like to fix things. We cannot fix anything. We need to stand by them, not pick them up and do things for the individual. So as much as it hurts you, or as much as you want to help, sometimes helping is just being there. So that's one thing that I've learned. Another thing that I've learned is learn about the treatments and the medications and the options and everything that your loved one is taking, because it might affect the way they feel. It might affect, and by the way they feel, I mean, they could get moody. And you need to be able to understand that they're going through that. They might be really tired. They might be, have things that affect them that wouldn't affect them in the past. So learn about the condition, learn about the treatments, be supportive, but don't do everything for them. Ask, what would you like for me to do for you?
I giggle at the moody because in my case, how would people know that I'm going through anything? All the time I'm moody. It's really interesting because I'm so glad that you are here together, because it's a combined effort. If you're like me and you get diagnosed with something, I was like, I got this, yo puedo solo, like I'm strong. But realistically, anything that has to do with the immune system, you really are going to need a support system around you. Can you tell us a little bit about, again, because Christian and I have both met your family, we love your family. How was the announcement, per se? ¿Cómo les dijeron a todos? How did you tell people? What was the reaction? And what was the outcome of that?
Wow. We've been doing this and interviews and talking about the journey, and no one has ever asked us that. And wow, for us, I was the one that found out first because I was there. And I was scared to tell my family what lupus was. Because you usually want to say, it's kind of like, if you remember kind of with like HIV back in the day, people were scared. They didn't know if it was contagious. Can I get it if I hug you? Are you going to die? You want to stay away. So the first thing we wanted to do was let them know. So we told them what was wrong with her. And I think we did it. Not like we sat down as a family, because we weren't used to that. I mean, in our culture, we don't really sit down to talk about what's going on, right? It's like, no sacamos los trapitos al sol. We have to keep a lot of things to ourselves, especially when she's the oldest, and she's kind of like the caretaker after my mom, right? So it's my mom, and then it's her. And then for me, I was like the middle child, and because I work in healthcare since I was 17, a lot of my family always goes to me for medical questions. It's just interesting. Even if I don't know the answer, I will go look for it, but they always go to me. So the way we did it is we kind of slowly told them what lupus was. When she was in ICU, we had to kind of focus on her getting better and not focusing on the condition as much. It was until after, when she started loom knitting and we started talking about it, and my mom started tejiendo and mi cuñada was tejiendo too, and we would get together every Sunday. You see how our family gets together every Sunday. That's what we would do. And then the conversation would come up. How are you feeling? What are you doing? And so that's how it came out. We didn't make an announcement. It was gradual.
And it was very difficult. I mean, just and thinking back, I think it was not only difficult for my family, but it was difficult for me to see how much they were suffering for me. My father was in Mexico, so I remember my mom telling me that she called my dad, and my dad said, my dad was already very sick. He had diabetes. He was losing his vision. And what my dad said is that he would rather die, but he wanted me to live. So it was very difficult, not only for my family, but it was very difficult for me because I always wanted to be strong, because just looking at them suffering was very hard. My brothers, well, both my father and my brother have already passed away.
And they were always very sick.
They were always very sick. My brother, he knew how much I loved my hair. I love doing my hair different ways.
And he used to do your hair too.
He used to do my hair. And I remember my hair was so short. I mean, I had no hair.
Like a pixie cut.
So my brother said, my family is Catholic. So he believed in the La Virgen de San Juan. And he said he started letting his hair grow, because he said, Negrita, he would call me Negrita. And he said, I made a promise to the Virgen de San Juan that your hair is going to grow, and I'm going to let my hair grow, and I'm going to take it to her.
Wow.
So, my brother was very, very sick. He was also, we didn't know if he was going to make it. So I remember clearly, I was at the hospital with him. He was also in ICU, I believe, when I went. And he was unconscious, yet what he told me is like, Negrita, pide unas tijeras. And his hair was pretty long. So Negrita, get it. I said, why? Because your hair is growing. He was unconscious, but he was talking to me. And he said, Negrita, you look so beautiful. Your hair is growing, and it's going to continue to grow. It's time.
And that day he thought he was going to die, and he got us all to the ICU. And it's so amazing. We've never been asked this question, and I think that's why we're so emotional, because you tend to suppress a lot of those feelings, right? Because again, we don't always talk about it. And these are the traumas that are left, that when you start talking about them, it brings back so much memories. And yes, my brother did let his hair grow. And my mom is Catholic. We're more Christian now, but we still believe. And religion, spirituality, I should say, not just religion, spirituality has helped us. And also being connected and being supportive of one another, and being able to express ourselves, I think, has helped a lot. But yeah, oh my gosh, Daniel, I'm glad we don't ugly cry, because Kim Kardashian ugly cries. We cry cute. We're like, ni moqueamos,
Makeup, what is the production team?
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing those stories. I so appreciate it. And para la gente que está viendo, for everybody watching, this is just the kind of relationship that we've established with each other. There's a mutual respect and admiration and love for them. See, they're bringing me a Kleenex.
Oh, I love it. I know we have ours over here too. Makeup, please. Makeup for Daniel.
Because there's as we talk about spirituality, I'm glad you brought it up. There is, for those of you that know me, I'm a spiritual life coach, and Reiki master, so I practice the energy work, and it's always about body, mind, and spirit.
Mhm.
And although people who are diagnosed with chronic or lifelong diseases or diagnoses, um, our body might start healing, feeling better. Our mind might start healing, feel better. But our spirit will hold on to those traumas for a long time. And it's really difficult. I think that's the hardest healing that's been for me. 21 years HIV positive, it is the hardest to heal my spirit sometimes because it holds on to all those feelings and emotions. So, um, as the oldest, Juana, and having, I mean, I have, oddly enough, my sister, Juana, is the oldest too. And they kind of take on this responsibility as the second mom. How did it feel for you having been the second caretaker and then the roles are reversed?
Uh, you know, I always go to Estela, to my sister. I mean, I love all my siblings.
But I'm her favorite.
They all know that.
Yes,
Estela and I have, we've done so much together. I mean, we're the oldest. Well, I'm the oldest, and there's two others before her, two boys. But Estela and I have always been very close. And, Daniela, I never thought about that, about, switching the roles. I still feel that I'm responsible for a lot. I have to say that for me, just seeing them go through the suffering of looking at me and not knowing if I was going to be here tomorrow. Even now, I see that they all, including my nieces and nephews, they take care of me so much. But for me, my siblings, I have to say, to me, they're like my children. I'm the oldest, like I'm older than Estela 6 years. And I have to say, I remember her, giving her el chupón, el biberón.
Until I
changing her
was
diaper.
5, chupón. That's why I talk a lot. I think they gave me the chupón para que me callara. Cállate, ten el chupón. Sorry, I went. I had to go there because
For people who don't know what chupon is, it's the
pacifier.
pacifier. It's a pacifier. How funny.
Yeah, but I feel like a responsibility, and I feel that I need to always be there for everyone.
And she is always there for all of us.
I try my best. Yeah, there are times where I have to reach out mostly to Estela, because I know that, she supports me.
Because I'm the best one.
None of the other ones don't support me, but I feel that Estela, if anything happens to me, I know that she would be the next person to go to. As far as what I do, as far as everything else, she's the one that's on top of everything now, Estela.
So for everybody watching, this is putting together. Today's guests are my friends Estela and Juana Mata with Looms for Lupus, and we're talking about lupus, how it affects a person and the family, and the ripple effect that it has on the community. With that in mind, we do have another question on the board for you. It says, on the mental health front, how have each of you managed your mental health through the ups and downs of the disease and caretaking?
That's a great question, because Looms for Lupus originated from Juana loom knitting. So she started feeling depressed because, being diagnosed with a chronic condition, life-threatening condition, is already a lot. Almost losing your life, but also the treatments. The treatments give you some downs that people don't understand unless they read the fine print of the side effects. So being at home after her chemo treatments and through IV, and being alone and not being able to be outside in the sun because the sun affects her, not being able to be under UV lights because that affects her, not being able to be around others because your immune system is really low, hits your mental health really, really big. And it's very impactful. For us, it also impacted us. We didn't want to lose my sister. She had younger kids. They were like 6 at that time, and 6 and 11. And it was scary. So it affected all of us. So loom knitting was a form of art therapy. that she used to relieve her stress. And I don't know if you guys saw the Olympics, but remember that Olympian that was knitting throughout the Olympics, the Winter Olympics, not long ago. He did it for the same reason. It's a stress reliever. So, in our communities, we never talk about mental health. There's a huge stigma. So we wanted to also bring a light to that, is that it is not easy having a chronic condition, and it is not easy to be dealing with a life-changing events and treatments. So what we wanted to do is to talk a little bit more about mental health, bring it, not just talk about mental health, to bring in the conversation, but also to bring different modalities that a lot of people were not used to. Like, I'll give you an example. For me, breathing, deep breathing, learning how to breathe helped me with a lot of anxiety. Mindfulness, just going outside, feeling the ground with my feet, smelling the flowers. I don't have to do much, but that's mindfulness. That's being present in the moment. And it's so healing. So we wanted to bring that to everyone, and our kids included. Mm-hmm. A lot of the art therapy that we incorporate were different modalities to bring to them so they wouldn't feel like it was about mental health if they didn't want to talk about mental health, because there's still a huge stigma. We are part of the Mental Health Consortium and with our Congresswoman, because we believe that the Hispanic Latino community do have this stigma more so than others. And with fibromyalgia and with lupus and any chronic condition, we are more prone, or the statistics have shown that there's a higher likelihood of being depressed or feeling anxious, or even suicidal ideation. And it's just heartbreaking to see that so many kids, so many young adults, so many parents, so many grandparents have been brought together to bring in the conversation about mental health and asking, ¿Cómo te sientes? ¿Te estás sintiendo bien? Are you feeling okay? How are you feeling? And you being able to say, I don't feel good. We were just watching, I think it's Inside Out, the emotions, the feelings, and how joy was always wanting to control everything. That's kind of like me. I always want to be joyful. I always want to be happy, turn on the music. But sometimes you need sadness to come in and to play that role and say, you know what? I'm going to be sad, and it's okay to be sad. But let's bring in joy a little bit. Let's see how we can bring this sadness to a different thing. So acknowledgement, communication, talking about it has been a huge thing. I think for all of us in our family, even our kids now, my niece is going through mental health baby therapy. Who knew there was baby therapy? And you teach them how to blow bubbles, and that's a way to relieve their stress.
I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because we don't normally, la gente latina, ¿cómo que estás deprimido? No, you're not depressed. Vete a hacer algo, get a job.
Sí. Levántate, salte de la cama.
It's traditional. Ponte a limpiar. Go clean. What do you mean you're sad? Ponte a limpiar. That'll take your sadness away. And by the way, I want to acknowledge Javier Luna, who is a friend of mine, who is a recent graduate in his nursing. He's a nurse. He just graduated RN. So congratulations. And I'm glad and I'm glad you're watching. Because he's the one that made the comment that the butterfly rash should have been
the key.
Yeah, that should have been a known. But we don't. Yes, están locos, como que no. But I want to touch on something you just said, because it's so key. When I was diagnosed with cancer, that being realistic about what is happening with my body, talking about I feel tired, I feel depressed, I don't want to be near these things, I can't smell that right now, all these things, and then even the thought of death, because cancer, obviously, you don't know what's going to happen. And there's a moment and you guys maybe can relate to this. There's a moment when the illness is so in your body, in your system, it takes over, that you start thinking, I started making plans, but how am I going to get to the end of this? What is the ending like? And people around you sometimes don't want to talk about it. But those are like, oh, you'll be negative. And I always thought, I'm not being negative, I'm being realistic. This could kill me, and we need to talk about that. that affected my mental health because it made me feel like people were not acknowledging what was really happening. I mean, I was 123 pounds, and people were like, "No, no, no, you're fine." I am not fine. I'm not fine.
Is
Does
that
that make sense?
sugarcoating everything, and also that fear. I think what we do and what we've always been, and I could tell you with like my parents, if my mom feels tired, she still gets up, she still wants to cook, she still wants to clean, she wants to do for others. It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to talk about death. There's not a lot of palliative care, and there's not a lot of end of life care. And those are things we have to discuss. And I think we have been able to talk about it more because it's reality. So we
Yeah.
have to be able to talk about these things. And I think one of the things that has helped us is, unfortunately, when my dad passed away, it was a harsh reality of like you losing your matriarch of your family. Or is it patriarch? I don't know. El mero mero, losing el mero mero was hard for us. And thinking of losing her or losing my mom was like, oh my gosh, we don't even want to think about this. Then when we lost our brother, it was like, wow, we were able to prepare more for losing him and accepting. He accepted death. He was like, I'm okay to go. He chose to stop his treatments. So who are we to judge him and say, don't let yourself go? We gave him that permission. We said, do what you want to do. There were many times where he would say, I forgive you guys and I hope you guys accept. I don't want to do this anymore. My body can't take it. And we can't continue to say, you have to live for me, for the family. Don't leave us, because that's being selfish. So it's, I think, being able to be empathetic, acknowledging the individual, respecting the individual, and loving
Yeah.
unconditionally.
So I encourage when people come to me and ask me, like, and well, I want to acknowledge this comment. Yes, we are
Yes,
great now.
yes.
Si no se
No me
habla,
pasa nada. No
yeah.
tengo nada.
If we don't talk about it at the dinner table, it doesn't happen. No ha pasado nada. But I'm so glad you said that because we're talking about health for everybody. We're talking about health issues. We're talking about lifelong diagnosis. This is not going away. Um, and we need to be conscious of the fact that there are things that are going to happen to the body. When you talk about losing memory and your mind, chemo brain is a very realistic thing. People talk about 10 years it takes for chemo to leave your system. And for 10 years, and I know I have it. And there's times at the end of the day when I've worked a lot that my brain glitches and I can't find the words for things. And Christian has been able to acknowledge that and be like long day, right? Like we're done. And that's when I'm like, just turn something dumb on television and let me just lay back or play my video game. I'm about the video games and just disconnect. But thank you for bringing all that up because it's something that we don't acknowledge, we don't talk about. And I feel for anybody out there, if you are the caretaker, if you are the family, the friend of somebody who is living with a diagnosis like HIV or lupus or something that's a lifelong fibromyalgia, be realistic. It's okay to be realistic. You're not being negative. Excuse me. Um, but we need to have those conversations. Does that make sense?
Oh yes, definitely. And I love that you gave that example of about you and your brain fog. We always used to say, because Juana would forget and she closes her eyes. She'll do, if she's talking to you and she wants to make sure that she puts her words together and she remembers and wants to give like exactly what she wanted to talk about, she'll close her eyes. And she would have like a lot of lupus fog. Then when I started having that as well, and it'd be like fibro fog, and then I would tell her, "Oh, great! Now we're both like fogged up." So there are times where I can
I'm
be
laughing
talking to
because I
you,
understand that.
yes, and it's like fibro fog, lupus fog. We're just like, you know what? We now just say it. And because before it was like, oh my gosh, we want the interview to be perfect. We want this to be perfect. We don't want to forget. Oh, don't forget to say this. That's very important. It's like, you know what? No. If we mess up or we forget, we say,
All right.
this is fibro fog. And if you don't know what that is, we forget things, and it'll come back to me. And if I do remember before the end of my, conversation, I'll bring it up. I mean, I'll forget simple things as like what a fork is called, or, I mean, just simple things. And it's like, my brother has been teasing me. He's like, sister, I think it's more than fibrofog. I think it's Alzheimer's. And I would get upset. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's fibrofog. Like, do you want me to, tell you about it? He's like, no, it's Alzheimer's. It's early Alzheimer's.
And now we have another reason why we have the fog. We have COVID fog.
Yes. El pilón. We had COVID last year. We were long haulers of COVID. So now we have COVID fog. So if we don't sleep well, I get the fibro fog, or maybe the COVID fog, or maybe it's just de mensa. Se me olvidó.
Yeah. I hope that the three of us never get lost without a GPS in the middle of the night, because we'll never figure out where we're supposed to go.
Daniel, it's happened to me. It's happened to me where I do have a GPS, yet I still have gone the wrong way. Let me tell you, once I was on the freeway and I said, no, this is not, the GPS is wrong. So I took the wrong freeway. Instead of going 605 north, I went 605 south. I got to Long Beach and I'm like, oh, what am I doing over here?
She just wanted to go see the Queen Mary,
I am so glad I'm not the only one. So I was leaving to run an errand from here at Christian's house. And I got on the phone. My sister called, so I got on the phone with my sister. Or I called her. I forget. And
no pun intended.
Oh yeah. Well, I get on the freeway and start driving to Laguna, to my house. I'm like 20 minutes driving. And she's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh shoot! Like I have to go the other way." So by the time I turned around, traffic was already picking up. What would have taken me like 15 minutes took me an hour and a half to get to it. So yes, I understand that.
And it's so frustrating. Do you think it's the fact that you're talking to the sister? Because sometimes she's talking to me. Sí, son las hermanas. I will tell her, but now we're comfortable enough to tell each other, you know what? I'm going to get lost, so I'll call you back. Because before it was like, I don't want to cut her off because she just called me and I want her to know that I do want to listen to her, but I also don't want to get lost. So now I tell her, hold on. Is it an emergency? No. Okay, I call you back. I'm going to get lost.
Oh, yeah, I want to show your logo. Here's the Looms for Lupus logo for those of you watching. Is that why the butterfly is there? We were talking about the butterfly ration. Yes. Is that why the butterfly is there?
Yes. So the butterfly is a symbol for lupus and fibromyalgia. The color purple, deep purple, is also the color for lupus and fibromyalgia. And about 20% of people that have lupus have an overlap of fibromyalgia. It just happens that in our family, we have a lot of autoimmune conditions, including fibromyalgia. And that logo was created, my sister, who is a police officer, our little sister, she actually was the one that started doing the walks about lupus, because there's a lot of, and by the way, I just want to say thank you to all the first responders, police officers, firefighters out there. There's a lot of people that are veterans, that are officers that live with lupus. And here's the interesting part. Stress is a big factor of lupus. Trauma is a big factor of lupus. So shout out again to all the first responders, including my sister out there, because, they go through so much. So she's the one that helped create the logo. And the knitting a community of hope was because my sister started knitting and we wanted to knit a community of hope, one loop at a time. And tejiendo una comunidad de esperanza. My mom's name is Esperanza. And that's one thing we never want to lose is hope. Hope is what is gonna keep us going. There's always hope for a better day. There's always hope for a better tomorrow. There's always hope for a treatment. There's always hope for something better or something even beyond this life, right? So you don't want to lose hope. So tejiendo una comunidad de esperanza, knitting a community of hope, is our slogan. And my sister actually also created, my little sister Araceli, shout out to her. She actually created a slogan for us. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, like you always, different departments or different groups will have like a slogan. And we have one called never give in, never give up, never let go, just keep fighting. And that's what we have to do every day, whether it's something that's affecting us today or tomorrow. But I'm glad that you brought up the logo, because there was a time about a year ago that we wanted to change the name because people were like, what's Looms? What does Looms mean? And every time we'd have to explain it, and we're like, maybe it's time for us to change it. We're like, no, we are knitting a community of hope. So now what we do is we incorporate the word Looms to we illuminate our community, we empower our community, and we support and raise awareness for our community. So now we illuminate, and we created the word ILOOMINATE. So instead of illuminate, we illuminate people. So
and that's the way we, especially in the Latino community, you have to do something catchy. You have to have a way to catch people's attention. ¿Qué es eso? And then before we continue, I want to make sure that I put up the your website. So make sure you go check out for any more information, roomsforlupus.org. Make sure you do that. Go check it out, and there's more information there. We're coming up on 10 minutes before the end of the show. Are you guys comfortable with a little more time? Can you
yes.
About 10, 20 more minutes so we don't, I'm going to make sure that we get all the information and everything that I have in my head out there. This question gets asked a lot on social media, especially when it comes to health issues. What is one thing people should not say to somebody that is going through lupus or fibromyalgia?
You don't look sick. And that's one of the words that we always get. But you don't look sick. And yes, again, when I was talking, when I went to the doctor, when I was first diagnosed with lupus, doctor sent me home. But you don't look sick. Yes. Estela also said, let's not judge a book by its cover. We don't know what the person is going through. So yes, let's be empathetic. We don't know what the other person is going through, but one of the words that I always get a lot, but you don't look sick. And I don't know if you want to share other.
Yes, I think everything's going to be okay. We don't know if it is going to be okay. And, I think even though it's encouraging to say that, some people don't want to hear it. And then another thing is, don't say, se te va a pasar, mañana vas a estar mejor. Or what's one thing that we always say, like, like not like dismiss, but say, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, oh, okay. And then keep on moving with our conversation. It's like, that's not how you want to acknowledge. That's just like, shut up and let's keep it moving. So
mi tía se curó
con
el curandero.
Oh my God. Or take this. Don't believe the doctors. Like they just want to make money off of you. They just want these tests to be done because of this. But here, I'm going to give you this herb or este remedio casero, este té. This is going to help you.
Yes. I got so many people wanting to send me tecitos y aceititos, and I'm like, although I agree with the one of my favorite things, and I say this now because I'm cancer free and I can laugh about it now. But one of my favorites, people would say, "Ay, yo tenía un tío que también tenía cáncer, pero se murió." I had an uncle who had cancer too, but he died. Why are you telling me that story? Like, what is the point? Like, I don't know.
That is so true. But, a lot of people say that, like, to comfort you, like, I want to relate to you and I understand you because my uncle had that, but it's like, you're not really helping. You just want to be part of the conversation, right?
My least favorite thing that people would say, and we had a rule for anybody who came around me, I didn't want to hear the words, "I'm sorry." And I don't say you're sorry, because I would always say, like, why did you give me anal cancer? Did you go up in there and put it there? Like, what was your part in all this? Like, did you give it to me? People were like, no, I'm like, don't say you're sorry. Don't say you're sorry. Like, don't put that in the
gosh. And I hear that a lot too now. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay.
Yes,
it's okay.
Don't
say sorry.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting you say that. Okay, I'm one. If I'm in the hospital, I don't want people to call me. I don't want to be asked, how am I doing? Because obviously if I'm in if I'm in the hospital, I'm obviously not okay. Don't talk to me. If I don't bring it up, don't ask me about it. But that's just me. I don't like to be asked. When my dad died and my brother died, I did not want people to tell me they were sorry. I would get upset. It was a trigger. I'm like, but are you sorry? Are you, or don't tell me you feel what I'm feeling. You don't know what I'm feeling. And it's just those are I guess the triggers to upset me. And I'm very moody. I'm one of those moody ones. I get that from my dad. God bless my dad. He was a corajudo,
But I get what you're saying, because I'm sorry was not one thing that I wanted to hear. How are you feeling was not, because my answer would be like, well, I have a tumor on my butt. How do you think I feel?
Yeah.
Go put something
It's
up.
funny the way you're saying. It's funny the way you're saying it. By the way, I'm laughing not at the fact that you had the tumor, but the way you say it, it's funny. You're a comedian. You're supposed to make us laugh.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm laughing.
it was, I'm sorry. How are you feeling? Those were things I was like, don't ask me how I'm doing today. Like, ask me how are you doing today? Well, today I feel good. Like, we can have this conversation. How is it? How are you? How's the day going? You know what? Today's not a good day. Can I call you back later? Or I'll text you later. Or hey, we want to come visit. Are you up for the visit? I'm like, but how do I feel? I'm going through chemo and radiation with the tumor up my butt. Like, how do you think I feel? Like, let's go run a marathon. I feel awesome. Let's go do that. You know, one of the things, and I want to ask you what your tips are for people. One of my tips that I give people when they're going through cancer is I tell them immediately create a wish list on whatever platform. I'm an Amazon person. Like, go to Amazon, create a wish list, put it up there. So when people want to know what do you need, you're like, go to my wish list. Just send me whatever's on there. Like, I'll be fine. What recommendations or what words? Oh, let me bring this up because this is our word of wisdom part. This is our word of wisdom. Words of wisdom. I forgot because we're over the time. So, what words of wisdom would you share with people, maybe who are newly diagnosed or recently found out about somebody going through this?
I would say and remind them that they're not alone, that they can always look for help. There's support groups. If they don't have a loved one that they can go to reach out.
Yes. And for me, it's just don't lose hope. Continue to empower yourself with knowledge, learn about the condition, learn about ways to help yourself, and learn how to acknowledge, accept, and ask for help. For me, I think I don't like to ask for help either. Again, I'm stubborn like my dad, grouchy like my dad. And that's one of the things I don't like to do. So it's okay to not be okay all the time.
I think that's another thing that and for everybody watching, I'm not particularly just calling out on the Latinos, but because we are Latinos, like, it's so, we equate asking for help with weakness.
Yes.
And when you're already in a weak physical, mental, spiritual state, to ask for help, it's like, ya estoy derrotado. I'm completely broken down. So I'm glad that we talk about. I'm so glad we're having this conversation because this is beyond lupus. This is beyond.
Oh yes.
Remember, this is the topic of the day, but I want for those of you watching that if this is beyond that, any condition, ask for help. Which brings me to the website because I brought the website up in a minute. Can you tell me how did that conversation go when you decided that you were going to start an organization? Because it's not easy and it's not simple. And it's not like, vamos a echarnos un taco and let's start an organization. But how did you come to this?
Well, my little sister was like, we need to start raising awareness. Let's participate in walks. So then that kind of got us going. And then we were already supporting the family. Mm-hmm. So we started going to, we're huge givers. So we also contribute our time and volunteer to a mother-daughter program at a community outreach center. It's called Kaiser Permanente Educational Outreach Program. And we volunteer time. So we thought, let's go ahead and see if we could do a support group there. And we asked, and they're like, sure, come and use our room. And then we thought, this is going to take a lot more than just being in a room with people. We need to do a nonprofit. We need to raise funds. We need to be able to help. We need like a clinical, we need a therapist, just in case someone needs a little more hand holding. And because we give back, there are so many others that do as well. And we learned so much. Doors started opening. We started learning about how to form a nonprofit. We did all the paperwork mostly. And then I reached out to a boss that I had. And I have to give him a shout out. I don't know if I should say, because his name's John. Let's just call him John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John, because I reached out to him and he had an attorney file articles of incorporation and the bylaws. And he paid for it all without even me asking. Wow. And, and this goes back to, you don't know sometimes the impact that you have on others' lives, or when you do something for someone else, they remember. And I worked with him for a long time. And, I'm just so happy that he did that. And I'm grateful for that. But we started doing that. And I work full time. So I work in healthcare IT full time. Juana is a social worker. My sister's a police officer. So we started taking more of the reins. And I told Juana, if we start advocating, it's going to take a lot more time. So weekends, after hours, morning hours, we crunch a lot of work with our nonprofit. So we provide support groups every second Saturday of the month, bilingual. We provide a support group specifically in Spanish every Sunday of the month for 1 hour. When we do our talks, kind of like you, with a show in Spanish, Plática con las Hermanas Mata, about lupus, fibromyalgia, and family. Like, it's about everything in Spanish. So it takes a lot of work. And thanks to you, we learned about StreamYard through you and being able to expand. So this is what we do. We collaborate, we work with others, and then we help each other. And I think that's what community is about. Like people like you. When I first met you, I remember I was very broken inside. I won't give details, but you didn't know who I was. And you did the card reading. And I wasn't like a huge, like, oh my gosh, like, let me go for card reading. And you were spot on so many things. And I remember I needed to make a decision for the business, for our nonprofit. And I also needed to find some healing in myself and forgive, because I'm not very good at forgiving people. I hold grudges and I know it's not healthy for me. So because of you, I thank you. I opened up and I was able to forgive, and I was able to move on and give me more clarity and focus on what I wanted to do. So it's been a lot of hard work. It hasn't been easy, but working with people like you that help us, we help others as well. I think that's one of the things that has helped us a lot, being able to collaborate, work with others and others work with us. I know I said too much, but.
Right. And our goal is always to be there for others, to help. And we're expanding. We're doing a lot more. We're hoping to do more. Of course, we always need money for anything that we do. We don't get paid.
No, we don't.
We don't get paid. We don't get one penny of what we do. But the little that we have been able to get, we give back. How do we give back? Support groups. It takes money. It takes time.
And advocacy and awareness.
Advocacy, traveling. So all that takes money. Or even the traveling, we've never gotten.
We take time off from our work. We
Right.
use our PTO, our vacation time.
And we pay our own flights, and whatever we do, it's out of our pocket. Whatever little money that we do get for the nonprofit.
And my husband's watching and he's like, ¿qué? That's where my money's going?
Your family is all awesome. So you feel the love. You feel the connection.
Well, you're an honorary member of our family already. You are Daniel Garza de Mata. But It's just amazing to be able to work and collaborate with others. And one of the things, again, I believe in the law of attraction, a lot of positive energy, and your good vibrations have helped us so much and have opened so many things for us. So we are so grateful, one, to be here with you and to be able to share, and as a community, again, not just for lupus, fibromyalgia, HIV, AIDS, cancer, but for our community as a whole, where we don't see any barreras, we don't see any boundaries. We just want to help everyone. And I think that's the amazing thing of being able to work with like-minded people, giving people like you, where you're like, what do I do? What do you need me to do? Of course, it does help to get paid for our services. And if anybody's listening, it's actually a good thing, because we do work so much that we're shy about asking a lot of the times. But again, totally grateful. I love that everything that you're doing. I love that your face is out there, because it's a representation of the Hispanic Latino community, and it makes us proud. So we just have to continue to lift each other up, and not just our community, our Hispanic Latino community, but all of our brothers and sisters, because at the end of the day, we are all one human race. And I think that's the love that we feel, and that's the love we like to give to everyone across the board.
That's awesome. First of all, thank you. I appreciate being acknowledged, of course, because and for everybody out there, advocacy work ain't cheap sometimes, especially when you're trying to start off and do. And for me, 21 years of doing HIV education, you do get to a point where people acknowledge you and companies want to hire you, and you start consulting. But in the beginning, back when, and even several years ago, Christian would tell me, it's like, why are you doing all this work? Like, why? And you do it for you first, because I want to learn and be up to date on what HIV and cancer is about. But then it's like a fountain. Like you have to start sharing that knowledge with people. It's like el agua. You share it with people, and then eventually it gets to the people that are like, hey, everything that you learned personally, you can use that now professionally. So I tell people, I don't have a PhD, but I have HIV after my name, and that gives me a lot of credit. So
it's that ripple effect. It's that ripple effect that we're causing. And the little that we learn, last time I said, well, we're not experts, and somebody corrected me and they said, no, you are experts in what you are educating others in, because you have learned. And for 11 years, anytime there's like research, any new research, we go to the rheumatology conference every year. We actually spoke last year virtually, and to be able to have patients speaking, or patient perspective, or a caregiver perspective with researchers, that's pretty huge. To be able to bring that back to our community, I think is amazing. But you know what? One of the things I wanted to say is, when you bring back that education, it's empowerment. We've learned that you have to prepare for your doctor visits. We learned that you have to trust your providers, and if you don't trust them, then move on to another provider. We've learned about patients' rights. We've learned about speaking out on self-advocacy. We've learned about educating yourself and your family and your loved ones about what you need. We've learned, and we've tried to advocate about mental health awareness, suicidal ideation, and all of that. But the other thing that is very, very good is to be able to relay the information and have others learn from it. From you, we've learned so much more about HIV and AIDS, and it's in our community. A lot of people are still to this day think that they're going to be, that there's no specific treatment, or that it's contagious, that you could get it with a hug. You could, you might not even be able to pass it on to the other person if you're with the right treatment, if you have the treatment, and if you have your numbers really low, right? I mean, and these are the things and the education that we need in our communities, all around, everyone, not just one specific community.
Oh, yeah, one more thing that I wanted to touch on, and I wrote in my notes, is in recently, the last couple of years, we've been dealing, and when it comes to HIV, with shame, stigma, and silence in the community, and not sharing about it, and not talking about it. Is there such thing when it comes to lupus or fibromyalgia, is there shame in have you heard about that?
Yes, I think there is shame in any condition. It's one of those things. People don't always want to talk about what they're living with, what their conditions are, because it's a form of weakness, and you don't want to be identified as you are Estela with fibromyalgia. No, I am more than my condition. I am Estela Mata, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a caregiver, work in IT, healthcare IT, and I also have fibromyalgia. So do not let your condition define who you are, because that's not who you are. It's a part of your life. And I think that's why so many people have that stigma and they don't want to share it, because they don't want to be known as the. You are a comedian, you're an actor, you're our friend,
Oh,
and you happen to have HIV and you're an HIV advocate, and you happen to have cancer and you're a cancer advocate, and you empower the community. So you are more than your condition. So I think that's the biggest stigma is,
Right.
Sharing that.
and bueno, antes de que nos vayamos, somebody out there who's newly diagnosed, what can you tell them?
What would I tell them? The first thing that I said earlier, you're not alone. You're not alone. Reach out for help. Learn about your condition. Learn about your body. Knowing your body, knowing your numbers is super important. Having a journal, because one of the things with lupus, you never know. You never know. Example, there was one day where I was having problems breathing. Didn't know what it was. It turned out to be that I had a lupus pleuritis. Knowing your numbers, one, with me, I didn't know about platelet count, 99, 2. I could have died if I had gone home that day with a platelet count of 2. So yeah, know your body. You are the CEO of your body. You know when something is not right. Know your numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And just to remind them that they're not alone. Reach out for help. There's Looms for Lupus. You can reach out to us. You can send us a private message. We'll be more than happy to give you information, share resources.
Yeah. And if people are not sure what they need or what the question or what to do, if they reach out to us and we can help them with specific need, we will refer them out. That's what we do. That's why collaboration is key. We may not have all the answers, but we will guide you to the right way.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you, and again, a big hello to all the matas. I know they're awesome. We'll have to get together again soon. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for coming on and talking, and thank you for the kind words. I just loved your energy, and when I met y'all, and I was like, I want to work with them somehow. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. I've had the pleasure of being not only on their show and talking, but doing stand-up for their show, which there's a whole story. It's a whole story in itself. I'll give you the quick. My microphone wasn't working that day that we were, because obviously it was virtual and it wasn't working, and I was trying to get it fixed, but I got nervous and kept rambling, and everybody thought it was part of my skit that I had planned all that, which I later would say, yes, I did. Of course I did.
Yeah, of course.
The part is that we didn't record it. I wish we had recorded it, but
La chancla.
La chancla. So what's next for you guys? What's coming up?
So this year, we're happy to obviously expand more on our symposiums. We bring a lot of information and symposiums in our Facebook and Twitter and YouTube channels. We are going to have a wellness event in May, which is free for caregivers, loved ones, and those living with lupus, fibromyalgia, and mental health. So that's where you were part of the comedy show there. So we are going to have that in May. We're also doing a mental health walk. We're doing more awareness for research, fundraising, but most importantly, we're every month we have our support groups in our lives, and I think that's it. I mean, stay tuned. We want to do a lot more giveaways. We want to be able to give your book out, have you on too, because you have now the English version and the Spanish version. So we need to give those books out, and most definitely just try to engage more, and bring more information to empower the communities.
And definitely with fundraising, one of the things that we wish we want to do is scholarships.
So we gave our first scholarship, so we have a lot more to come. We want to be able to contribute wherever we can. So thank you, Daniel. Again, we could talk for days and hours, but I know it's like 1:15. We are in Big Bear. We're actually enjoying the outdoors, a part of mindfulness and meditation. We are going to feel and breathe this cold, amazing air and enjoy our families. But thank you again for inviting us to this amazing show. And we're family, so let us know how we can help you.
Well, hold on, don't go anywhere yet. By the way, Little Mexican Productions Inc. is available for you guys. So whatever we can do to help with your events, we are there. Just let us know. Okay. For everybody watching, we've had Juana and Estela Mata today talking about lupus, life as Latinos, and other conditions, and just how to be supportive. I want to remind y'all that we have shows almost every day of the week. Join us on Wednesdays for the Christian and Daniel show at 6 p.m. On Fridays, the Card Devo at 5, and on Saturdays, Put Together Conversations. If you'd like to be part of Put It Together, send me a private message on whatever platform you're watching us, and let us know what you want to talk about, and we'll reach out to you. Make sure you hashtag us with Little Mexican Productions Inc. and go to littlemexicanproductions.com for more information on what we do. Thank you, ladies. Don't go anywhere. Let me just say goodbye, everybody. For everybody watching, thank you so much for being here on the show. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Remember to catch us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the air. For now, I want to thank y'all for joining us, and thank y'all for being here. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.